Happy holidays to all. Thanks for joining this week's show, the Jim Jackson Show, of course. You can follow me at Jim Jackson Show on IG, but also, too, on the platforms that you generally get your podcast from, whether that's Spotify, Apple, or whatever you log into. Listen, it's been a great week. Basketball, we're heading into the holiday season. We know it's a big, big day for the NBA on Christmas, despite the NFL kind of encroaching upon our day, so to speak, with Netflix having 2 games, but that's all right. We'll let them go. I understand the marketing behind it. But a few things happened this week, kind of just want to discuss as we tip off the show. Congrats to the Milwaukee Bucks for winning the second annual, the Emirates Cup this year, as the official name of it, but being able to win that. And I thought that, I thought teams and fans got a better understanding of what the Cup was all about. The designation between when it was played on a Tuesday, Thursday, the courts were toned down a little bit as the NBA took more control over the coloring and the platforming and the layouts of the court. But I thought that, one, the fans felt more in tune and understood it. And being at different games and watching different games, it felt a little bit different this year now that everybody was on the same page as to what the Cup was all about. But I also thought, more importantly, that the players took it more serious this year. Not that they didn't last year, but they really honed in and really identified with these certain games. And I thought that it developed a better product, and it will continue to get better. I know still some people are up in the air about the Cup. It's a gimmick. I don't think it's a gimmick. I think now, whether it stays in this current format at this time period, whether it stays at the beginning, or I know it's been some conversation about moving it to January, which kind of defeats the purpose of getting eyeballs on the NBA in late October, early November, and before Christmas to kind of compete with basketball. Why would you move it to January? Just maybe some strategical things. But shout out to the Milwaukee Bucks, to the NBA for the second iteration of this Cup and the Bucks winning it, and to our fans who enjoyed it. Went out to Vegas and watched it. I thought from a TV perspective, it was put on well, and it's only going to get better. Again, when something is new, you tend to fight it. You tend to push it back, i.e. the play-in games. But now look at what it's been able to produce over the years, the kind of excitement at the end of the year. I do think this Cup will be able to do that as well during the season as we continue to roll along with it. What else is in the news this week? Changes in formats to the NBA All-Star Game. I'm just going to keep it real. I'm not going to jump into what's right, what's wrong, why they did it, why they did. I'll tell you why they did it. The players have to take responsibility of this. I know Kevin Durant came out and said that he would like to see it go back to the old format. Well, the old format didn't work because the players didn't play. The players don't take it too seriously, or serious enough to make it where the fans who are paying the money to come see it, the TV companies who are paying the big bucks to put it on, they don't take it serious. So that's why the NBA over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years had to figure out ways to reinvent the All-Star Game because players, i.e. the leaders, don't take it serious. When a Luka or a Jokic or Ja Morant or whoever it may be doesn't play hard and it's just layup basketball, then the product is not going to be worth watching. So the NBA cannot not have the All-Star Game. It's part of their TV deal. So that's why they're tweaking and trying to figure out what can we do to salvage it? What can we do to make it interesting? Man, at the end of the day, guys got to want to play. Guys got to want to play. And I hate to be the old guy, get off my lawn, but there was a time in the 80s and in the 90s when the All-Star Game meant something. When it meant, one, you were prideful because you were a part of a select group of people who got selected to play. Second, now you wanted to compete on a national stage, to whether it's East versus West, to prove who was the better conference. And third, you competed against the competition, against those other players that you have been competing with, against all year to prove a point. And maybe somebody you liked, somebody you was a friend, but you still wanted to go at them. That competitive spirit was lost. Hence, this is why the NBA is trying to figure out ways to reinvent the game. So the players are going to complain about it, but at the end of the day, you have to take this serious enough to be able to go out and play. Even if that means you're playing less minutes, if you're a superstar, maybe you play 5 to 8 minutes in that first quarter, second quarter, stuff like that. Other players want to play hard. They'll play hard when the true players, go out there and play hard on both ends of the floor. Third thing, congratulations to Caitlyn Clark for being named Time Athlete of the Year. I get why people are so upset. I'm a basketball player and a basketball fan. There's a lot of dynamics and a lot of layers to this thing when it deals with Caitlyn Clark. But I will say that this is just my opinion. It's certain people, I don't care if you're black, white, Spanish, from Europe, it doesn't matter, that have it, that draw something, okay? And Caitlyn is one of those. It's the reason why Steph Curry, who may not be the best player, okay, in the NBA, but he draws differently. He draws different. He can be marketed differently than other players. It's some players who may be considered better, maybe a Kevin Durant. But to market Kevin Durant is a lot different than marketing Steph Curry. People resonate with Steph Curry a lot more than a KD. Now, that may be KD's personality, okay? He doesn't really care. I'm just using KD as an example of a player that physically is, I think, a better overall player than Steph. But Steph, from a marketing perspective, is more valuable in terms of marketing and what he brings to the table. And that's what I see with Caitlyn Clark. Caitlyn may not be, A'ja Wilson is the best player in the WNBA, but Caitlyn is more marketable because people tend to resonate. I don't care, black, white, whatever it may be. And now there is a race component to it. It always will be in some regards, okay? But the player itself, the person, what she was able to do, how she resonated, how she drew eyes to the TV. I don't agree with the Mystics owner saying that the whole WNBA should have been named up, because that's not true. The whole WNBA benefited this year from the viewership increase because of the excitement between Angel Reese and also Caitlyn Clark. But from a pure marketing perspective, Caitlyn Clark was it. Angel Reese added to that because of that duel and that rivalry, okay? But some people, keep in mind, this is a business. When Nike signs a athlete, okay, they want to get an ROI, return on their investment. How do they do that? Because that athlete resonates. You understand that Caitlyn Clark, her jerseys, her apparel, if she has an apparel deal, her shoes will sell. There's some other players that get deals, men and women, okay, that have signature shoes that, despite how good they are as a player, great as they are as a player, they don't move product because it doesn't resonate. It doesn't translate. What translates is when Caitlyn Clark came into the league and 30,000 jerseys were already ordered, that the Indiana Fever, the season tickets were already sold out. When you go on the road to the Mystics and they have to change the venue in which it's going to be played to play, where the Wizards play, okay, on a couple of occasions. It's only certain people that do that. Whether you like Caitlyn or not, are you interested? If you're a ball player, there's certain aspects you got to love about Caitlyn's game. If you just truly love basketball, all the other stuff we can debate. And there are some other factors that go into this. Don't get me wrong. But purely from a basketball perspective and what she brought to the WNBA, along with Angel Reese and the other players who, I think in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, from a marketing perspective, have really added so much value to where they're going. Hence, they signed a new TV deal, that she deserved it. Now, other stuff we can get into later on, different conversations, deeper. But to me, that's where it's at with Caitlyn Clark. So shout out to that, Caitlyn Clark. Shout out to the NBA, Emirates Cup, but also All-Star Game. I'll go back to this. Players, you got to play. You play hard, you benefit TV, people love it, and you won't be going through all this mess about reorganizing or reinventing what actually the All-Star Game should be, which is the ultimate competition between professional athletes. It is my pleasure, my honor, to welcome in a great friend of mine, Brian Scalabrine, a.k.a. the White Mamba. Listen, I know you do games with the Boston Celtics, but you're a co-host to one of the best NBA talk shows on NBA radio, with Frank Isola. You also coach AAU. So you're tied in from the basketball end, and being tied in with the Boston Celtics, where I was teasing you this summer. during the parade and celebration, you celebrated more on the banana boat than anybody, bro, because
it's not a banana boat. It's a duck boat.
It's a duck boat. Okay, a duck boat. On the duck boat, because didn't we have a Big Three game? It came back.
Yeah,
you were.
Yeah, exactly. So I got off the duck boat.
Okay.
I was popping bottles, spraying the crowd, and I didn't even bring a change of shirt. My shirt smelled like champagne on the plane. I'm like, hey, man, this is the way I'm rolling in, man. This is what it is. So, yeah, I mean, like I tell you what, when we won a championship in '08, I don't think I celebrated to the fullest extent. I wish I would have celebrated more. So I was like, you know what? 2024, it's like the new 2008 for me. So yeah, I was definitely living through that 2024 team, no doubt about it.
But why wouldn't, if you go back and look at it in that '08 team and you won it, you said you wish you would have celebrated more.
Yeah.
I know you, it was a long season. You finally had a chance to get there. Again, your broadcasting compared to playing is more like a relief, like getting it off your chest. But I haven't been there. So when you say you wish you would have celebrated more, what does that mean? What does that entail? Like what?
Drink all night, hang out with the people of the city. That's it.
Like you was gonna be outside in the street.
You got your family there.
Right.
We take the pictures with the trophy.
Okay.
And you hit her with the, I love Mrs. Scally. You know that, right? So it's like, all right, Mrs. Scally, time to go. And I'm going to go out, and I don't know when I'm coming back, but it's going to be when the sun comes up, right? And I'm going bar to bar with the people, man. Because when you win a championship, and like, I didn't know at the time, but now being a part of Boston and like living here and doing all that, like, it's really for the city. Like, you win it and you're like, man, we accomplished our goal, but like, you realize how important it is for the people. And then you get a chance, you go on the duck boat, you see it, you're like, oh yeah. Like there's millions of people out here. Like, they haven't done this since 1986. So that's the way that in hindsight, I looked at it. And I would have loved just to, hang out all night and like when you're in, and you know how it is, JJ, when you're in a playoff, man, like the world could be burning down around you and you have no idea.
Right.
You have no idea what's going on in the world. Like it's like you're worried about guarding a pick and roll or what happens on this screen down? What are we doing? And you have no concern of anything. Sometimes you have no concern of things going on in your own family, right? So like after you win it, then you start to be like, man, this is it's a big relief and all that stuff. But no, I would have definitely hung out with the city, no doubt.
The further you've gotten away from career-wise, but you watched it through the eyes of the Celtics of this team, it seemed like you gained that appreciation for it a lot more. I know I did. Like, and I know what you mean by taking it for granted. Because when I played, I wasn't fortunate to have, success winning-wise early in my career. So it was always, okay, the next year, you prepared. So you never get a chance I never got a chance to really enjoy. I had fun in NBA, but really enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was when I finally started to win near the end of my career that I took a deep breath and I was like, man, this is what it's about. But I knew also too, I was near the end of my career. So I looked at it different. And now that I've been retired for 18 years and I view it, I'm like, man, I wasted probably some years of really enjoying playing in the NBA. And it's a catch-22 because I was so focused on trying to get better, trying to win, trying to figure it out. But when I was in the moment, I could never really embrace it and enjoy it until later on.
Yeah. One thing that people have to realize, and I know and like there's NBA players, but there's not one road to being an NBA player. Like you're a top draft pick going on a team, with so you had Jamal Mashburn, Jason Kidd, like you guys, that's a whole different road than me being a second round draft pick and being really lucky that I got drafted by the Nets. And then that led to, 2 finals appearances. And then you're with a real serious organization. And you know what they do when you win, you bring back the 10th, 11th, 12th man. Like my career looks totally different if I go to a different place. So I like that thing that you were talking about. Like, look, I was winning, but I'm not going to, I was winning because of Jason Kidd. I was winning in Boston because of Garnett, Pierce, and Ray Allen, Rondo, those guys, right? So it's like, I'm just trying every day to fill my role and to stay in the league. And you're trying every day to become an all-star, play for a legacy, like looking at, okay, am I going to make this much money or that much money? Like it's very, very different. And one thing about me, like my superpower at the time is knowing exactly who I am and who I'm not. So like when you say like, man, I didn't enjoy it like I could have, or like when I say that, it's like because like I said, man, I'm just trying to hang on to get one more year, or I'm just trying to how can I stay 2 more years in this thing or 3 more years in this thing? And that's my mindset all the way through. And I didn't even enjoy it until like I retired, and I was like, man, that's pretty amazing what I accomplished. But when someone asks me, I go to talk to kids, like you talk about the AAU, and kids ask me, when did you feel like you made it? I was like, man, when I was done. Like when I was done, that's when I was like,
yeah,
dang, man. Like how the hell did the kid from the middle of nowhere pull out an 11-year career and now, got a championship and, been to 4 finals and know countless Hall of Famers. Like I don't even know how I got to that point, but that's kind of how my mindset was.
Well, but you also too. I think you brought up an important point where you get drafted to, good or bad. That's the key to a lot of players in the league, even a top draft pick, because you can be a top draft pick and get drafted to the wrong team, and it doesn't work out. I'll take an example like Chauncey Billups, who got drafted high. What started in Boston, it didn't work. He ended up in Toronto and Minnesota, then finally got to Detroit. Minnesota kind of got his legs up underneath him, finally got to Detroit, and then boom, it took off. But it took him time to kind of figure that out and find the right team. And I think a lot of players, and it's parents too, and you're around this a lot with the AU, want things right now. They want it to happen right now. And not understanding the situation that you're in sometimes dictates whether you play a lot or you score a lot or you're successful, what your role is. And in today's world, and it was like that before too, but I think more so now, do you see more of the impatience with not just the young men and women, but with the parents? And I say the parents because the parents heavily influence how the young men and women think and react to disappointment and success.
Yeah. So let's unfold that. I actually never got a chance to talk to Chauncey Billups about this. I know Chauncey, like Chauncey, but I wonder if he thinks I'm not a Hall of Famer if it's not for those things that happened to me earlier. I don't know if he thinks like that. We had Brad Daugherty on the show today, and he was talking about Michael Jordan. And I didn't know this.
I heard that.
Do you know Buzz Peterson was the player of the year in North Carolina, Michael's senior year. So Brad Daugherty is like, man, I don't know about this Mike Jordan, but I know Buzz Peterson's the man, right? So like Jordan was slighted. We know he got cut from the varsity team when he was a sophomore. Then he went to, North Carolina, and he wasn't on the cover of Sports Illustrated, right? Like, then you can go to the Hall of Fame speech, and like he's still a little bit sour about it. He's the greatest player ever, and yet he's sour about being slighted, right? So I wonder how a lot of people take that. I think now people fabricate their own stories and say,
yes,
oh, man, this guy don't believe in me. This guy don't believe in me, right? But it's like back in the day, like we all as players find motivation in those and going through those things, right? But I'll say this from the youth basketball standpoint, and like I thought I was really lucky last year. So my top players, I had a kid going to Colgate, and Cooper Flagg's brother, and that's Ace Flagg, and like I'm gonna be me, but I was really lucky that the parents were really cool with that because they allowed me to push those kids, and I felt like, especially with Andrew, because I spent a lot of time with Andrew, that he went to a completely different level with my ability to push him. And a lot of people aren't gonna like that. They're not comfortable with that kind of stuff. And, and I think, everyone grows differently, I guess. But I really felt like I just, going back to the Chauncey Billups thing, if there's people that are behind you, pushing you, motivating you, good, bad, they care about you, they don't care about you, I feel like it all goes into the pot, and the end result is usually, if you're a competitor, the end result is going to be something good that comes out of it.
Hey, go back real quick. You were talking about Andrew. Was that Andrew Flagg? Who were you talking about?
So Andrew, his name is Alisenko. His parents are Russian. Kid's going to he's going to Colgate, and Ace is Ace Flag.
Oh,
So
Ace
both
Flag.
kids I
Okay.
was allowed to push, but Ace works out with Cooper all the time, so I didn't get a chance in the offseason to spend time with him. This kid, Andrew Alasenko, who's going to Colgate, who I believe he's a much better player than that, but it's fine. It's good. His family's into education, everything like that. But I just think when you going back to the point, it's and I'm sure you pushed your son the way you want. When kids are receptive to go into levels that are uncomfortable, I think that's where the real growth really happens.
I love it, man. I love it. To keep doing that too, man, because I think kids want to be coached. I learned that kids want to be coached. Kids want to be pushed the right way when they respect it. But it's also this dynamic that they're dealing with overbearing parents at time or friends that want something more or something different than what they actually see. So you have this conflict between whether that's the coach or the AAU coach or the high school coach that wants to direct them one way and understand you got to go through a process to get to a point to where you need to be. And sometimes it has to hurt. Sometimes it has to be disappointing. But you have to learn to fight through that. And I think at the end of that, the young men and women can look back at it like a Michael Jordan who had to go through that process of being hurt, being cut, and not being looked upon as a certain way to push himself. And as I transition and I think about that, I'm talking about pushing yourself with the Celtics. You win it last year. You go through a weird summer where it's okay, the Celtics won it. Yeah, they won it. They were great. But it's like a but. Did that fuel this team coming in? Because I feel like they're playing now like they have even more to prove as a team, as a group, than they did last year. Am I off on that?
Jimmy, I think that you would be better to answer this question than me because the Celtics' success and their growth and everything happened when Tatum and Brown became playmakers. When those guys all of a sudden started moving the ball and trusting everybody, that's when the Celtics have the cheat code. Now, I get it. Brad Stevens added Jrue Holiday, Porzingis, they added, some players around them, some spacers, but they still have to trust everybody. So I don't, think about it. They had 19 assists in the NBA Finals game. Think of 19 assists. You could bet $1 million that those guys would never, 3 years ago, that those guys would never combine to have 19 assists in the NBA Finals game. So when that happened, that their growth as young star players positioning themselves in this league, if I'm not a Hall of Famer, am I an all-star? I don't even know what it's like to think like them. But once they did that, then the Celtics became unbeatable last year.
What now was that thinking process? And again, it's layered because you got to go through some stuff. They kind of accomplished some individual goals. They've gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals, stuff like that, but they didn't get over the top. How much do you think that played into the maturity and again, another year of maturing as a young man, not just from a basketball perspective, but growing in his mind as a young man? How much do you think that played into that part of it, and also the makeup of the team?
Yeah. So this is only my opinion, right?
Right.
This is nothing that they have told me, but Brad Stevens is a really smart guy. And he said when he resigned and wanted to become president, that it was time for him to go, right? It was time for me to move on. Then he got Ime Udoka in here. And Ime Udoka was the first, listen, this is from the outside in, where he really pushed Tatum and Brown. It looked like on the daily, he pushed those guys to become something more than what they could. Every day pushing those guys to do something, right? Okay, you're going to do this. You're going to be this. You're going to handle the ball more. It was constant. You got to move the ball. It was we would win games and he would be like, Tatum and Brown got to be better. We put a lot of responsibility in their hands. They're the best players on this team. So that uncomfortable conversation. And listen, I don't know what happened behind closed doors. It may be different. And, it could be like that. Some coaches are cool, saying things to players in public. Some coaches only do it in private. But it just felt like Ime Udoka was pushing those guys to do to get beyond their comfort zone. The thing happened with Ime Udoka, then Joe Mazzulla takes over. It's a weird situation. A week later, he's taking over the Boston Celtics. The Celtics really don't know. They can't talk about it, whatever it is, right? But Joe Mazzulla did the exact same thing, and he pushed those guys to get out of their comfort zone, to do more, to become better playmakers. And I think like all that led to, the Tatum and Brown. So maybe, and you know how it is, man, like combinations, you talk about draft places, maybe it was the perfect combination of Brad Stevens and then Ime and then Joe Mazzulla is what exactly got those guys over the hump. I mean, if Ime was here, maybe they would have won a championship, but like the end result is what it is. And for whatever reason, the combination of all those guys and all the people in their lives made these guys into what it is. And, like they have to understand that the NBA is so much more than just like, all right, the players worked out and they got really good. No, man, like it's getting uncomfortable. It's growing. It's like failing. It's a lot of things that go into when you see a really good, dominant team, a championship level team. It's just like, you cannot talk about the Golden State Warriors without bringing up Mark Jackson. You have to bring up Mark Jackson. You have to bring up what he did, right. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Though he loved those guys and he allowed those guys to grow. And then Steve Kerr came and they took them to a new level. Like it's all part of the story.
No, I love it because it was the dynamic. It goes back to patience. And in today's world, Scal, you know this. Organizations generally are not as patient when they've built a roster and a team and spent money and gotten close but couldn't get over the top. That all of a sudden, boom, they blow it up, they do something. The steps that the Celtics had to take to kind of feel the losses and grow and mature and add the right pieces, bring in a Porzingis in, even though he was injury prone, but his presence got Boston to a certain place, bringing Al Horford back. You know what I mean? Getting Drew Holiday, Derek White's emergence, Peyton Pritchard getting better and better each year. Even when Sam Hauser struggled with a shot early on, he continued to stay with it. All these things had to come together in order for what happened last year to happen. And ironically, because of how things went down, I don't think you have, and this is my opinion from the outside looking in, a Boston team that's satisfied. Because of all the dynamics of what happened. Like Joe Mazzulla didn't need to stoke the fires early with this team to understand that now you're the hunted because you won. I felt that coming into it. And it's going to be interesting to see, Scout, because you're around it every day. As the season goes on, we go through those doldrums of right before, All-Star break when it's like getting monotonous. Kind of how this team continues to push, even though Milwaukee is playing a lot better right now. And then post-All-Star game, kind of where things are sitting. Would they go for the number one seed? Would they push to get that? Or would they be satisfied at maybe being at 2, knowing that they can get home court advantage? These things start to play in my mind as I look at the Celtics team.
So I got the answer for you, Jim. When Peyton Pritchard is a bona fide savage, dude. So every day, like, I don't know if I've said this publicly. Like, I think that, like, in a good way, and you know what I mean? I think people in the NBA would know what I mean. He got to screw loose in a good way. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, like, every day, Peyton Pritchard is going out there trying to score 30 and have 10 assists and lock up the best player and outplay the star player on the other end. Every single night, he's thinking that. Every single night, he's playing, and you can attest to this, to not for Joe Mazzulla to not take him out of the game at the first half. There's been points in the first half where he checks in with like 6 to go, and he just plays till the half. And then the second half, he'll check in the third quarter with like 6 to go, and he won't come back out of the game, right? So every day. And then there's a game where he gets taken out and he's not on the floor in the fourth quarter. And I'm telling you, he's pissed. Like, he's mad. So when you have bench players that are like that are pushing like that, and Joe, for whatever reason, I don't want to say tugs those strings because that's kind of disrespectful to Peyton Pritchard, but he knows exactly how to keep those guys completely motivated. I think it's going to be really hard for the Celtics to, like, mail it in, if you know what I mean. Like Peyton Pritchard comes out and plays and he gets 27 and 10, and Jaylen Brown and Tatum are like deferring to him as a lead guard. So I think when you have guys like that, got a little screw loose coming off the bench, dude, it puts a lot of pressure on the starters to play well. Like maybe not Brown and Tatum, even though the other night, Jaylen Brown against Washington went to the bench, never returned. He just rolled out with some guys, or Drew Holiday went to the bench, didn't return. Like there's been moments where he just rolls with Peyton Pritchard and a bench guy. And he kind of does the same thing with the big kid Cornette and Kada. So he just like really knows how to tug those strings, which I don't think these guys will have a mail-in week or month or anything like that.
It's interesting, man. It's the dynamics of the way their roster is built. And, we always say this is what tend to say it's a copycat league. Are you for the amount of threes that are being shot, not just from Boston's perspective, but as that being the focal point right now? And two-prong answer, that the number of threes, and does that have an effect on how people view and watch and enjoy the game, in your opinion?
Yeah, of course. Of course. It's an easy fix, though, Jimmy. An easy fix. Just eliminate three in the key. Just allow teams to go get monster bigs to guard the rim, that they don't have to clear the lane or whatever. Coaches will design defenses around funneling to bigs. Then they'll kind of peel off or build out to three-point shooting, and they'll trust their bigs at the basket. So if the NBA has shifted, like we're playing the European game with a screwed up rule now, like a defensive 3-second violation. If like the guys, that was in the lane for the purpose of like guys having more room to work. Now we have 3-point shooters, so everyone has more room to work. There's no need to have 3 seconds. If you want to really, listen, you can fix the game without moving the 3-point line. You can also take that charge circle and extend it out,
move it out
about 2 feet. So now all of a sudden you don't have plays at the rim where guys are getting turnovers or taking charges or anything like that, which is a better game, by the way. It's an unnatural play to take a charge at the rim when a guy elevates and you stand there and take a hit. And this is coming from a guy that took a bunch of charges, right? Like it's just, you want to fix this game, you think inside out, not outside in. And I think that there'll be a drastic move. I don't know if they're thinking the way that I'm thinking, but just eliminate three in the key, put the charge circle out. We'll get my favorite play in basketball is dude elevates, big elevates, chest to chest action, and then guy lays it up, or big man goes straight up and the guy misses. Like it's the best play in basketball that we eliminate. So we can insert more of those plays into the game by changing the rules in the paint and leaving the 3-point line out there. And I guarantee you, like 3-point shooting will go down like 20 attempts as a group per game just by fixing the lane a little bit.
Yeah, I get it, because now the little intricate changes, again, it's so much space now being utilized on the court because of the 3-point shooting, because you don't have the typical big inside, that you're not just posting the ball up, so you do have the space. What's interesting, though, is that when people talk about this, and I may be off on it, but talk about copycat league, but the last 3 champions all play different styles of basketball. Even
Correct.
though Boston and Golden State utilized the 3-point line, they utilized it different. So Golden State's style was different than Boston's.
Way different.
Denver's was much different than those two, because they utilized Aaron Gordon and Jokic more inside, Jamal Murray mid-range. You had KCP who shot it, and Michael Porter Jr., but they didn't rely on the three. So as much as it's a copycat league, our last 3 champions have played a different style of game and won it in a different way.
Yeah.
You feel me
on
that?
I agree. The only thing is, you can't replicate Steph Curry as much as you want to. You can't, right? That's a different dude. You can't replicate Nikola Jokic. But I think teams are like, we can replicate spacing the floor and moving the ball and knocking down shots. But,
Right.
If you watch the NBA, and I know you watch it like the way I watch it, like the newest thing that's happening now is the sacrificial cut, right? So you got dudes cutting from the wing, and that play is going to be open, or the 3-point shot is open off of dribble penetration. So that's like the new wave of playing, and there's some teams that are picking up on it. and are becoming really difficult to guard, and other teams that are like playing a little bit more methodical and just trying to bomb threes. But, the game will continue to change. And that's not a Celtic thing. That's just an NBA thing. People are figuring out more ways to become more efficient. The offense is best as it's ever been. Like the defense is at a major disadvantage with the skill level of players nowadays. But, I think the league's in a good place. Its ratings are bad right now because football is king. Once football is done, everyone's going to be talking NBA, NBA, NBA. Playoffs are amazing. They're going to forget this early on session of the NBA, and everyone was going to be right on board again. And by the way, for all these coaches out there, if they don't want the 3-point shot, then take it away. Find ways to take it away. But I think there'll be a slight correction that will make a big difference.
Yeah, but the play, and I do believe too, some impacted early this season when you had key players who got hurt early that didn't play, especially in some of the marquee early games that could have been like staple points. Look at what's happening to New Orleans. I mean, decimated just by injuries. I mean, when Embiid was out, Kawhi's been out, of course.
Yep.
Marquee players, the TV schedule was set up at the beginning to have these marquee teams, marquee players, marquee markets be on full display during football season. And when you don't have those superstars playing, especially going up against the NFL, it does have an impact. Now, I don't know, Scal, if the ratings are just from a linear perspective, just linear TV, and then adding cable, but not having streaming in that, because young people watch the game and tuning in differently. So the numbers are saying one thing, down 28%. Okay, is that linear TV? Is that a combination of linear and cable? Because young people, attention span, as okay, I'm watching it, but I'm just not watching it fully all the time. Yeah. So that number doesn't really tell the whole, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't tell.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean,
the whole
it's
story.
Like when we were negotiating our deal, our ratings were at the all-time high. And now that the deal is negotiated, if they want, this is just my opinion. If the NBA wants to make a change into something, they're going to say ratings are down so they can make a change. Let's just say they want to make it less 3-point shooting. They'll get information out there so they can make a slight change to improve the game, and they can hide behind ratings. They can do whatever they want with a number. It's like analytics in basketball. You want to move those analytics however you want to move them to justify your point. I think the NBA is kind of doing that right now.
All right. Before I let you go, okay, so the Mamba is going to invite me on the show when I finally get a chance, West Side Mike, I come on. When I'm on the East Coast, I could do it.
All right, so this is what you got to do. This is easy, and we would love to have you. You would be an all-time great guest for us. Right. And by the way, we played all your clips when you and I and Eagle were. That was great, man. You guys were perfect together. I don't know what the hell they're talking about, but you guys were perfect together.
Memphis,
anyway, I don't want to bring up a sore subject. Rip the scab off, but listen, just text me when you're east. I'm about to be east for a week, and I'm gonna be like. Me and Jimmy played this game. I don't even know if we should say it on the podcast. You can edit this out.
Oh, yeah.
Who you with? What you doing? Where you going? My favorite game. Yeah. I live my life vicariously through JJ. Where you been?
We're at Big Three. That's the first thing. That's the first
every day.
Thing you said every
dude, and you're always like, Amalfi Coast, blankety blank. And I don't even want to talk about what you're doing.
No.
So anyways.
Oh, man. I love it.
Hit me up like, yo, I'm in the Midwest.
You, bro. Yeah.
I'm in the Midwest. Done. If you tell me, you're definitely coming on. You're definitely coming on. Just make sure you get to bed before 2:00. That's all I have to say.
Hey, man, I'm a night owl by nature. Hey, man, listen, man. I know you got a game. You got a heart out. You got to get ready. I got a game tonight because we're in Dallas for that home and home. But love you, bro. Keep doing your thing. I love listening to you on the show. Good luck with the Celtics until we play them. Then other than that, I don't care. You can win them. But I appreciate you, brother.
You got it, JJ, man. You know what? Always a massive fan of your work, man. I really do look up to you as a broadcaster, man. I learned a lot from you. So keep it how you keep it.
All right, man. Keep it real. All right. All right, white mama. Later, brother.
All right, see ya.
Happy holidays to you all. Just a quick note to let you know we'll be dark next week because of the Christmas holiday, but we'll be back. Jim Jackson Show will be back on January 2nd, so look forward to that. But until then, with your family, your friends, your loved ones, a healthy holiday season, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. Enjoy.